On this episode of Prop IQ, we're looking at downsizing or right-sizing, from tips on decluttering to finding the perfect cosy nest. This is your ultimate guide of living large in a smaller footprint. Plus, I'll be joined by Laura Bos from the Strata Community Association to delve into what you need to know about apartment living. So, is downsizing a trend or a way of life? Let's find out. This is Prop IQ. Hello and welcome to Prop IQ, a series produced by the Real Estate Institute of Queensland, where we take a deep dive into the latest trends, news and insights in the real estate industry. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us and learn more about the ins and outs when it comes to all things real estate. In our previous episodes, we've covered various topics like renovating.
A lot of the time, the most expensive finish isn't actually the right finish for your home.
First home buyers.
It's fantastic to make this house a home and make it our own as well.
The rental market.
It helps me know what I want my dream home to be.
Auctions.
Sold, congratulations, well bought. When the hammer falls on the day, job's done, we move on.
How to prepare your home for sale.
The home will always dictate the style that we need to stage.
And how to kickstart a career in real estate.
Led me to real estate because real estate's probably one of the greatest businesses on the planet, I think.
So, as you can see, whether you're a real estate industry professional or a consumer, Prop IQ is designed to help you expand your knowledge base. So I encourage you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you click the notification bell. That way you'll get notified whenever we post new content. When it comes to downsizing your home, the options are vast and varied. There are apartments, townhouses, over 55 communities and retirement villages, or even embracing the grey nomad lifestyle. Some may choose to live in the same neighbourhood, while others might prefer a sea change and a relocation closer to the beach. Many move closer to family, and some may even move in with family via a granny flat or separate living space within the family home. The decision is becoming increasingly relevant for many in Queensland, where it's no secret that our population is ageing. In just a decade, it's predicted that the number of us aged 85 and over will double from its current level. And with many seniors maintaining their mobility well into their later years, it's crucial that there are housing options that meet their needs while allowing them to maintain their independence and lifestyle. Across Queensland, it's estimated that over 500,000 homes owned by people over 55 are being underutilised. While some benefit from having extra rooms for visiting family or personal hobbies, many find themselves with more space than they can comfortably manage or maintain. The reality is that retirees who may want to downsize often face significant barriers to moving house. Chief amongst these obstacles are the transaction costs involved with moving, which can be very challenging without a regular income. Despite the financial hurdles, there are still numerous opportunities and benefits for those looking to downsize. We sat down with the experts to give you valuable insights into this topic.
Well, I get up early, the birds are singing, and I walk my puppy for 40 minutes or so, and then I come back and then I get in the pool.
Our homeowners or our prospective clients definitely ask first, what is this type of community? This is GemLife Palmwoods. It is one of our most recently developed communities in Queensland. We build that infrastructure for our homeowners, but our homeowners make it a community.
There's a missing factor sometimes when you're living in a house, and that's the connectivity to the community. That doesn't always happen when you're living in suburbia, say.
I think that a lot of our homeowners, this is a different era of their lives, and so they obviously have a lot of questions, and some of those relate to downsizing, and they're concerned about how can I bring all of my my heirlooms and my items that I've had throughout my entire life.
We moved we were living actually on a boat, interestingly enough, and we had a house at Lake Macquarie in New South Wales. We had no idea that these sorts of resorts existed actually. We just thought this is absolutely fabulous.
The main perks that I have heard that we hear from homeowners, that they don't have to maintain the lawns anymore. They can be down at the bowling green, having a bowl with friends, or doing laps in the swimming pool. So spending less time doing the general house maintenance and lawn maintenance, and having fun in the communities.
You're buying a 3 or 2.5 bedroom, basically 3-bedroom house, 2 bathrooms, but you don't have the garden to look after, the big garden.
Our homes are spacious and equipped with beautiful, beautiful standard inclusions. So I think that most people will see the houses and decide, you know what, I could probably do away with a bit of furniture.
When we sold our house and moved here, yes, we had to downsize certain things in terms of rationalising furniture.
Even though you may have to downsize or wish to downsize, it doesn't mean you're, going down in quality.
Once we'd seen what this was all about, we put a deposit down, we went home and thought about it. Every day we discussed it, we debated. We did a list of pros and cons, and I'm so pleased that we did.
Once the decision's made, they're all for it, and a lot of the time, if not all the time, they wish they made that move sooner.
I wish we'd done it 10 years ago, because we'll be living here for the rest of our lives.
So, as you can see, strata living is very unique and different to living in a freestanding property. To tell us more about what strata living entails and what people need to be aware of before making a choice to move into this type of accommodation, I'm joined by the CEO of Strata Community Association of Queensland, Laura Bos. Welcome, Laura.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Antonia.
It's a pleasure. So, Laura, let's talk a little bit about the differences between living in a freestanding home, let's call it a 3 or 4 bedroom home on a block of land with a big backyard, and then we make the transition into living in a unit or an apartment in a strata scheme. There are some significant differences between those two. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
Sure. There's lots of differences. I think first you've pinpointed it really clearly. A freestanding home with a garden around, your neighbours a little bit further away than perhaps if you were living in an apartment. So there is that adjustment to make, that you do have people who are perhaps living a little bit closer than you would normally have experienced. Of course, you're moving into a smaller environment, so it's really important to understand that you may not have the storage that perhaps you had before. You don't have the benefit of a shed in the back garden or a massive garage to store your things. And of course, then you've got shared facilities. I think one of the things that is not well understood about strata or strata living is that when you buy into a strata property, you are not just buying a unit, you are buying into a big building, and you own a share of that building and all the facilities and all of the grounds that go around that. So there's some of the things that people don't quite understand with the transition into those environments. And you're moving into a community. You're moving in with people that you don't know and who are living in closer proximity. And I guess if you are not a neighbourly person, it may not be the right choice for you.
I think that those are really good points that you make. It really comes down to your personality type, whether that type of living will suit you or not. You touched on an important point, which is, of course, when we live in a strata environment, there are some legal structures that come with that. So let's talk about due diligence. There are some important questions that you should look into before you commit to buying into this type of scheme. What can you tell us about what we should be asking?
There's a lot of questions that you should be asking from not only a legal perspective, but also the community perspective. So I always think there's two layers of questions. So the first is clearly around understanding what the body corporate situation is. And there's some great people out there called search agents who can assist with finding out all of these questions. So they will help you understand the age of your building, the health of the body corporate in terms of funds for maintenance. Because remember, you buy the unit or the apartment or the townhouse, but you are expected to contribute on an ongoing basis to all of the beautiful grounds you may have, that pool that you so enjoy, perhaps the gym that might be a part of your new apartment blocks. They are yours and you are an owner of those as well. So it's important that you understand what that looks like. There's also getting an understanding of the culture of the body corporate as well. So there are definitely questions you can ask around dispute levels that happen in the body corporate, because you want to move into a nice environment as well. You can also ask a number of questions about the building health itself. So, the older the building gets, the more maintenance that is required. And the last thing anybody wants is a nasty surprise in moving into, say, an apartment block where they're about to be hit with what we call a special levy because maintenance is required. So it's really important you get an understanding of not just the legal aspects, but also the health of the body corporate and the health of the community that you're moving into.
Some really excellent points. I would always recommend that you do engage someone with expertise in this area to help you conduct that due diligence, and also think about, I'm sure you would agree, making the contract subject to the completion of that due diligence and your satisfaction with it. I think that's really important.
100%. I hear a lot of stories, obviously, in my role from people who haven't done that work and have moved into an environment that just wasn't suitable at all. So we always recommend that work gets done. And strata managers are always there to help and support people who ask those questions and supply the information that's required.
Yep, excellent points. So let's talk about some of the benefits associated with strata living. I know that for me, one of the things that immediately comes to mind is how low maintenance it is in comparison to that freestanding property. And we've all got such busy lifestyles, so that's the one for me that always jumps out. But what are some of the other benefits that come with this type of living arrangement?
Yeah, sure. There's so many. So, of course, you've picked up on the busy lifestyle, lower maintenance, less gardens, all of those things that you have to look after personally. You don't have to clean the pool anymore. But I think one of the key things, or there's a couple of key things. The first is location. Apartment living, for example, is a really affordable way for somebody to perhaps buy into that beach lifestyle that they have not been able to do in a freestanding home. And so it opens up that opportunity. It also opens up the opportunity to experience facilities that you just don't have in a freestanding dwelling. So a lot of beautiful apartments that are being built at the moment have really catered to lifestyle. So you see them now being built with gyms. Yes. Beautiful resort pool areas, communal areas on the rooftop where people can enjoy sunset drinks together. And it is that community aspect as well. So, while there can be some great, because everybody's personality is different, there's some magnificent communities that really come together and they enjoy their sunset drinks together in the afternoon and barbecues and all of that can be really a lovely environment to move into. So the downsizing is important, and we've all collected things over the years. It gives us that bit of an opportunity to have a clean out, a refresh as we move into a different kind of part of our life. But definitely the locations and being able to have somewhere that you may not be able to afford in a freestanding buying a freestanding home are really critical.
I can already think of a number of apartment complexes that I'm aware of where if I lived there, I'm not sure I'd ever need to leave again. Everything is available within the complex, and so I think we've really started to get much better at building these wonderful complexes that cater for all of your needs and wants so beautifully. You touched very briefly on that subject of transitioning into this type of living. So let's finish on that point. What kind of advice do you have for people who are moving from a property that obviously is large, a lot more bedrooms, a lot more space? We accumulate possessions over the years. So what's your advice for how you go about transitioning, whether it be about what you do with those possessions or perhaps other issues associated with making the change?
Sure. I mean, firstly, if you've got friends who live in apartments, talk to them. Because they will have really practical advice around what to do, what you need, what you don't need. But it's also that positive mindset in embracing the new era. And what do you want to take forward and move forward? Take your time. Really think about what it is you want to take forward and leave. And it's also about what your environment looks like as well. So some people will move into a duplex or a townhouse which may have a little more room than perhaps an apartment does. But I just say embrace it. Embrace the opportunity to change and to look at stepping into this new life with, perhaps without the burdens of the stuff that you carry. I'm sick of cleaning my house and all the little dust gathering stuff that sits around, but take the meaningful stuff forward and use that as an opportunity to step in.
That's great advice, Laura. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us your insights into strata living.
My pleasure.
And now it's time to answer your question. If you have a question about the process and costs involved with downsizing, make sure you comment so we can help you out. To give me a hand at the desk for this episode, I'm joined by the REIQ's very own Chief Operating Officer, Dean Milton. Thanks for joining me, Dean.
Thanks, Antonia. Great to be back. We've got some great questions here to finish off the episode. So first up, when you're downsizing, you've lived somewhere for a while, you've collected a lot of stuff, a lot of possessions, but you're moving somewhere smaller, you need to get rid of some stuff. How do you do it? You call in the skip and just chuck it all out? How ruthless do you need to be?
Well, look, I think we've got to recognise that there's a lot of sentimentality wrapped up with our homes. We collect lots of things and possessions, but of course there's memories associated with all of that. So one option is to be brutal and throw it all in the skip, or ideally donate it to charity. But I think for many of us, that's a really difficult thing to do. So I think it's always important to be realistic. You're not going to be able to take everything with you, but you don't have to discard the lot. There are some possessions you can keep, photographs, for example, and smaller possessions, but certainly some of that furniture probably either needs to be given to loved ones or donated. And I think it's also important to involve other friends or family members to help you with that process, because psychologically it can be very difficult to let go of those things. But I don't think you have to give it all away. Certainly bring some of those possessions along with you.
Fair enough. So you've made a decision to downsize, but you're not quite sure about what size you should go to. Do you think you should rent before you buy? Is renting a good first step to go somewhere a bit smaller, or should you just jump right in and buy?
It's a good question, and I don't know that there's a right or a wrong answer, but I will share with you that we have heard stories where people have thought that they're ready for apartment living, and what they often do is rent an apartment or a unit for a period of time, only to discover that actually it's not for them. So renting can be a good way of dipping your toe in to experiment first if it's going to work for you. So for some people, certainly that's a good option. The other thing you can do, if doing that is perhaps not practicable, you can always talk to other friends and colleagues who have already undertaken that exercise to get their views and their insights, and that will help you to determine if apartment or unit living is the right option for you.
And as part of that process, how would you suggest people find that right size? to move into? How do you right size?
Well, I think it really comes down to understanding your own personal circumstances and needs. I think you have to understand that going from a 4-bedroom home with a huge backyard into a 1-bedroom unit, that might be too drastic a change for many. And of course, what we also know is when people downsize or right size, they still have family members or friends who come to visit. So you need to sit down and do a list of what your requirements are. You might be prepared to accept that something smaller is what you need, but you still have a need for maybe an extra bedroom, or it might be that you even have a need for a third area that you can use for a hobby, or perhaps it's a living room with a sofa bed in it that can still convert to allow family members to come and stay. So it's important that you sit down and understand what your needs are and what your wants are, so that you're not buying something that ultimately leaves you disappointed and doesn't meet your requirements.
Yep, great points. So final question here. So we've covered this off in a previous episode, but say you are downsizing, it's been a few years since you've purchased a property, a lot's changed in that process. What are some of those hidden costs and those things you've got to keep an eye out when you are buying a new property these days?
Yeah, good question. So I think the first thing is you have to understand that the first cost is probably having to do some renovations and repairs to your home. If you've lived there for a long time, homes over time require certain repairs, so you probably need to budget some money to get that property up to a standard where you can sell it to get the best price possible. Of course, we would always encourage you to use a real estate professional, so you'll need to think about the costs associated with advertising and promoting the property, as well as the agent's commission on top of that. And of course, at the other side, when you are buying a property, you'll need to think about things like stamp duty that you're going to have to pay, and also lawyers' costs that are associated with the conveyancing process. And finally, don't forget other things like the cost of moving furniture around. So the costs associated with removalists, sometimes people forget about that. And in the event that that property has been used as an investment property, you'll also need to think about whether capital gains tax may be payable in connection with the sale.
So many taxes, the government never misses out, do they? Anyway, well, that brings us to the end of the questions. So thank you so much, Antonia, for that.
Thanks, Dean. Some great questions in there. Thank you so much for taking the time to submit them. And of course, don't forget, if you've got some other questions or any feedback for us, make sure that you comment so that we can respond to you. And finally, if you'd like to be part of our Q&A segment or even appear on the show, make sure you follow us on social media. And that brings us to the end of this episode and the first season of Prop IQ. If you haven't already done so, why not subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can watch previous shows and segments where we cover topics like renovating, first home buyers, the rental market, auctions, how to prepare your home for sale, and even how to kickstart a career in real estate. Thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate your support.